Hi, I'm Shalini Misra. I'm at my home in New Delhi with Professor Daniel Charny, designer and educator, and Oliver Jahn, the CEO of House of Manus and the former global director of AD magazine. Very excited to have a conversation about design thinking, about craft incubators. And shall we start with you, Professor Daniel, about what you're working on now?
So it's really exciting to be involved in this kind of collaborative international knowledge exchange. I work in kind of two arenas. One is the discipline of design and craft, and the other is with much younger people and kind of school education level. So it's before they choose or before they and we're trying to bring in some of the mindset of makers and designers and craft knowledge to school level. We do this we have a community interest company, so it's a social enterprise. And parallel to this, I'm a professor of design at Kingston University, where we do research into the impact of design for social benefit.
Wonderful. And how about you, Oliver? You have a big title and a lot of responsibility covering many different fields.
Absolutely, yes, of course. Thank you very much for having me here and bringing me over to India. It's quite an exciting moment in my life as well, for many reasons. As you said, I'm running a new company that we founded in Switzerland, a global company based close to Zurich. We founded this last year, and as you said, House of Manus is all about the hand, right? Manus is the Latin word for hand. So this company is all about investing, let's say, in the future of craftsmanship. And we are working on many different levels. One is we are building equity, meaning we are investing in companies, working with companies to build, a sustainable future for heritage brands, all in the field of home and living. We are very much interested in working with companies from, all various areas, like from glass, porcelain, textile, weaving, furniture, of course, lighting, everything that you would find in the house in a way. So this is one part of the company. Another part is very closely connected to that. It means we are consulting with companies, working with companies, giving them, a lot of support in building this kind of future businesses. And last but not least, and this might be, adding up to what Daniel is currently doing, might make for maybe the most important part of it, even we are investing in education as well in that area. We are building an international academy for craftsmanship, which will have a physical space, maybe in Switzerland. We're gonna see. We just started, building all of this up. And connected to that, there will be, and this is a very important part of it, a very international program where we might open up, a full horizon of opportunities for young aspirational people that we would like to find and to attract, because basically, as it's one, as we all know, of the biggest challenges in that field, to attract young people, to become, let's say, glass blowers again in Murano, or porcelain painters in an old porcelain company somewhere in Europe, or all the other professions that you might find. And we will pick them and give them, a lot of support and help them finding the right company for them, and basically making, let's say, this attractive again as a life path, which is very important, because now
we were talking a bit about what happened with young people who don't grow up around craft or design, and how do they hear about it or discover it. And so how can people that are fully immersed help these people discover, have a first interaction with making, maybe early on, maybe people that don't have an architect or a craftsperson in their kind of arena of influence. How do we find them? How do they find us? It's very important, because there's a lot of talent out there which is not reaching us.
And it's interesting that both of you want to work with young minds and start educating them. Design education, do you think it has changed a bit, or are you following the same rules of education, or are you improvising some of because you all have both had amazing careers as well? Are you adding any?
Well, it's changed massively. It's changed massively. Design, which is the field I know a bit more, but also designer makers, and that's the crossover with craft. has diversified so immensely. You know, we see UX designers and designer makers. What do they actually share? What is it? Are they both? Some of them have really strong material intelligence. Other have kind of communication and coding, but they do share some very basic things. That these are the things we need to help change in order, or not change, but kind of reinforce very early, or support or enable very early, which are these mindsets and attitudes, which have to do with responding to our rapidly changing world. And that's changed. You know, the pace of change and where we see change is increasingly something that these young people need to respond to. And so with the way that they are being educated now is not enough to respond to climate emergency or to social injustice. So design education really does have to wake up and change. We can't keep doing it in the way that we did before.
I guess adding up on that, Daniel, I guess the same matter of fact, you know, once you go into the area of craft, right? I mean, there is so many connections, obviously, between the world of luxury and the world of design and the world of craft. Sometimes they are all interwoven, sometimes not. I mean, my personal background obviously is not in education; it's more in journalism. You know, I've been running this international magazine for quite a bit. And part of that has been a lot of traveling, obviously. So I was, you know, going around the world and seeing companies, designers, workshops, studios, you know, of all sizes, right? Starting, like, let's say, from the big ones, you know, in the fashion industries. I really could get, you know, access to see how things are made there, you know, up to, you know, small places all over the world, right? In Colombia or now in India as well, right? So this is like a full horizon, and what you can see coming from that experience is that there is so much challenges for basically all of the companies, no matter what size they have, you know, to attract young people again. And I guess you have to create, I think, new narratives around that.
Again. I totally agree.
An investment, for sure.
I mean, who is investing in young people now? Yeah. They expect, you know, creativity and innovation, all the policies, but they're not actually putting money into the first steps, you know, into this world. And to be honest, people are growing up with a lot less knowledge of materiality. You know, they don't make or repair as much. They don't know to distinguish between two fabrics. Some of them, you know, there was a horrendous report around children not knowing how to use scissors. And if we're going that way, then we have a massive problem. And what's great about the relationship with the craft and making coming back in is that material intelligence is essential. And also, it's a great way of learning through making. While you're making, even if you're not going to be a maker at an early age, if you are trying to solve a problem through making, you're combining creative thinking with critical thinking at the moment of making. You know, when you make a prototype, and you've made so many, you are making decisions, right? And at the same time, you're editing. You're not just going, yes, 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 yes. You're going, yes, no, yeah, that's the creative and the critical at the same time. If we could get young people to experience that, then maybe even if they don't do design or craft or engineering, and they are politicians or commissioners or editors, they understand the value of it. And I think the more we have these programs and people that are celebrated for what they do and how they do it, the more we can share this knowledge.
Absolutely. And I guess it's extremely important, you know, the way, or to kind of redefine or recalibrate the way we are looking, you know, into that area, that field of craft all over the world, right? I think, like, my personal belief is that, you know, we should not romanticize it too much, right? We should really give a full picture of what all this is about, right? Including the dusty hands, including maybe, you know, the low salaries, whatever. You know, it's not only about cherishing the beauty of the things that are coming out of craftsmanship, which definitely is the fact, absolutely. But I'm not so much a fan of, like putting, craftspeople on a stage and make them doing their thing, right? Like a little bit like circus clowns. And once the limelight is off, they're just going back, to their villages, wherever they live in the world, and whatever, nothing has changed in their life circumstances. So I think it is extremely important that we are not only creating new narratives, as I said, around all of this, but new models around it, that we really, it's not about building a museum village, right, for craftsmanship. For craftsmanship, once you look back to it, it's like hundreds and thousands of years old of techniques and skills. It always has been about innovation, right? It's like high-tech technology in a way, has been forever, right? It always has been about solving a technical problem, right? For a carpenter at a certain in a certain century, it was all about finding the right joint, to build a chair, for example. So that was an innovative moment, and that was like given to another, like from the master to the pupil, right? So, and we have to, I think, win this aspect of innovation back once we're looking into craft.
There is one problem we face, which is there are people that really worship and adore the past. And there are people who are really running ahead and focusing only on the future. And what's important is that we have a continuity of knowledge, and some of the things that we've seen recently really celebrate this continuity of knowledge of both in technique and materiality. And, we saw an amazing project about an architect using an app and photographing a dancer dancing traditional. And that combination is really symbolic, and not just symbolic, it's actually a transfer or continuation of that knowledge and into whatever technique it's going to end up in front of us. So that's so much more than an object. It's carrying out that meaning.
We're talking about a few things. We're talking about using our hands to build something, and that is more and more people in the world are really not using their hands, especially children, and most of us grew up creating something with our own hands. That's one thing. The other thing is like this creative exchange of knowledge between different, we're all global citizens now. We all travel, we see a lot of things. And I think what I observe working in New York, London, New Delhi, is it's not that different. Creative thinking is not that different, but the making is quite different in all these different regions. So I think if there's a way for creative thinkers to come together, of course, the historical narrative, the performative narrative, there are many different ways to put a design idea together. And there's a lot of visual knowledge. There's also a lot of sensory knowledge. And how do we combine that all together? And I think this exchange of ideas is really, really important.
I completely agree. But we also have to be aware of what's going on. There is formal education and training. There is the informal kind of creative activity which happens, which is not accredited, not professional. But there is the non-formal environment. And I'm really kind of excited to see how YouTube has brought back, and Instagram has brought back a lot of making. I can see it kind of, how do I make this jeans into a skirt? Okay, YouTube, yeah, okay, I think I can do it. And I think there's a whole new kind of way, which is, it's not designed as an education, and it's not by educators. It's just happening as an exchange between people with some talent in this. And today, when you want to solve a problem, you do open up YouTube and try and figure out. You do get inspiration for cooking from Instagram. So making it somehow. That digital wall that we said is destroying, all the kids are on computers, they're CADing, they don't know what material they're specifying. That's kind of changed. Instead of becoming a wall, it's become a window where they kind of talk to each other. So that's quite exciting, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Fully agree. And I guess, Shalini, what you said, exchange definitely is key here. I mean, coming from, like a huge industry that is like connecting all the dots between design, craft, and luxury. I mean, exchange is key, right? Once we look, let's say, into craft right now, it's very much about moving, let's say, all the parties towards each other, right? Because it's not only about bringing craftspeople together, like, with emerging designers or seasoned designers from all over the world. It's very much a matter of time as well, that both parties, let's say, start educating each other, right? Both worlds have to be open to each other. And once you bring industry in as well, right? It's like becoming a question of scalability, right? You have craft, let's say, on one side, and artisanship, and you're really facing the question: how much willing are artisans in doing something very repetitive, right? Even on the level of their artisanship, and whereas on the other side, industry, for example, definitely has to be educated and moved towards that sphere to gain a better understanding, of course, about the cultural and historical context, but then it has to be, I think, very sincerely moderated. All these parties, and what kind of processes you could implement to, for example, infuse much more real artisanship into industrial production. How do you do that?
Yeah.
There's too much. I think there's a lot of knowledge, there's a lot of information available now through the internet, through AI. I feel that going inwards, the sensory knowledge is very, very important. I think quietening our mind, thinking through that.
Embodied experience.
Yes, I think that's really important to get the best out of all the exposure that we are getting now. So
I guess I completely agree, but there's another layer which is to do with access. So who gets to see these beautiful things? And if someone is not in the environment to see them because they're in public places or galleries, the number of people that actually go to museums or to galleries is very low. So where and how can these be in a public eye? So public projects, community-based projects, environments which are displaying these things not in a private collectors. That's got its role, but that's so important. And therefore, the whole thing that you're talking about, making different media accessible, is great, because I think it's key.
Absolutely. I mean, it's all about experience, right? I mean, not only for, let's say, from the consumer side, but as well from, the perspective of young people, or even, seasoned people who might change a little bit their life path and might be very tired about being a lawyer, well, very well-paid lawyer for sure, but maybe, are seeking for something else. I think it's like the most important part in society right now, and I guess craftsmanship for sure has a momentum right now in society all over the place for many reasons, for obvious reasons maybe, right? Because there's...
What do you mean obvious?
I think maybe it's just to me very obvious, but I think there is, what we can really see all over the place, given, all this over consumerism and...
So you think it's a backlash to mass production?
No, I think is like it's very much a lack of meaning that we are facing right now in many, many aspects in society. It's not only connected to consumerism and how we experience, let's say, the connection to objects.
It also represents a kind of a way of dealing with the depression and fear around resources.
For sure. Yeah. That's for sure is an aspect. Totally, yes.
There's a complete awakening about that,
absolutely.
Not to waste.
Yeah.
So if you are buying something, you're thinking long-term about it. And then if you are thinking long-term about that, you want to, know that it's properly made.
Absolutely. And I mean, the most sustainable thing, everybody was talking, for the last decade, everybody was talking about sustainability. I mean, the most sustainable thing on earth is crafted pieces.
Yeah, but talking is not enough, is it?
Talking is not enough.
Action.
It's action.
And it's actually the experience of being part of it, which I think gives hope. If you're experiencing doing something, you actually feel that you're part of, you're not just a victim of the situation. And I think that in that sense, craft is amazing, because you really, even the little stitch represents you maybe in the bigger picture, the repeated action, you are one of those. If everyone kind of rallies up and does their bit, we have a different mindset. And so I think it's not just the actual craft, it's also what it could engender in people, empower.
I mean, the interesting thing is, this kind of, let's say, not only perception shift, but as well, it's a question of cost as well, right? Once you buy into, let's say, handcrafted pieces, for sure, for many obvious reasons, labor costs and stuff, time, material, precious material, and all that, like, it has a cost, right? Once you go look back, in history, let's say 100 years back, and of course all the centuries before, I mean, it was the most common thing, living in a village and going to, you need a new cupboard, and you would go to the carpenter right next the corner, or right around the corner, right, to get your cupboard built, right? And that was for sure not the most expensive thing. It was just part of, let's say, common knowledge and common experience of everyday life. And of course, we kind of lost that. And like my grandfather, for example, he was a typesetter. And once he would see, how craftsmanship almost became like a holy grail nowadays, where he would have laughed at me like crazy, right? Because it was his, normal daily life at a normal cost. And I would really love, and this is like a little bit of a dream as well, to not only, have all of this, embedded, let's say, as part of the design and luxury industry, but really trying to, like, on the long-term view, try to bring, that perception back to a little bit of more, like, all-day life of, like, more people.
But we have that now in India. That is the way of
slightly
living.
Western point of view, isn't
I
it?
think
Probably,
so,
yeah.
because I think if you need a sofa upholster, you get the upholsterer home. You don't even need to ship the sofa anywhere else.
Absolutely.
So you need a basket woven. The guy and his bicycle will come and weave everything at your home if you need something welded.
And we need to learn from that for other places.
It's a beautiful blueprint, and we have to really, put a lot of attention back to that to make it normal again.
Because economically viable.
But also repair is becoming more important and more recognized. We've seen the right to repair movement. We're seeing it creep into policy. Our studio, where I run the Fixed Bits Learning Program, we're sitting next to a Restart Party. They are part of the Right to Repair campaign.
I really like the name, Right to Repair.
Yeah, and that's also for industry. So how do you make phones repairable? How do you make washing machines repairable? Only through policy, because there's no. So we have to kind of see it, but we also have to see, there is a repair community in India, which is amazing. Also electronic repairs, repair cafes. There is no connection with the design world. It's ridiculous, because designers should be learning in order to make things more repairable, and industry should be learning from these people, and craft is embedded in it. So if they don't respect that as a craft as well, and you've just said, yes, it exists here, it does not exist in the same way in so many other places. And so this knowledge exchange is critical.
Thank you, Daniel, and thank you, Oliver, for joining me today. The discussion was very, very fun, discussing from education to economics to craft incubators, design incubators, and the art of making as well.